All right, we are live. Hey guys, this is kind of a out of the ordinary Lost Fleet live stream. We some personal stuff going on with me that has created the problem here. It's 100% me. We had to move it to Saturday and had to move it to noon just because of some family stuff that I'm dealing with. And so I am truly sorry. We are missing over half of our crew because we had to move it, and hope I might do something in a week or two and just maybe let everybody gab and just like kind of sit back and let everybody kind of come in and tell me what they thought, because Joe from Unity151 is not going to be able to be here, AdmiralStarNight, and it looks like Carlos is also not going to be able to be here from Spire Metro. But what we generally do is we do a spoiler-filled chat about there you go, AdmiralStarNight's in the chat, and we just do a spoiler-filled chat on what we thought about the books. We've read, what is it? This is 8 books now that we've read in this series, and yes. It's a lot of fun. So my name is Ramsey. I run the Rajathon YouTube channel, and we're here on my channel, and I'll pass it off to Karl.
Hello, Karl from Geek on My Sleeve. This read-along has been a blast. I am a huge fan of the Lost Fleet series. Definitely missing the crew today. But AdmiralStarNight is here, so she said, "Dance, monkeys dance, entertain us, foolish mortals. We'll do our best." But yeah, it's seems to be going around with a lot of people. Life's just been crazy for Peter, my brother, who helps me run the channel, and myself as well. Yet, these get-togethers with our book buddies are just the highlight of my week. As much as life gets crazy, I look forward to hanging out with Ramsey and the crew, and just kind of escaping into the other worlds we enjoy so much, like the Lost Fleet, right?
I think it's really cool too, because we're finally starting to see the opening up of like this universe. I'll go ahead into the summary real quick of this one. Beyond the Frontier, Invincible. Am I holding the book up in frame? No. Yep, now I am. After stumbling upon a second non-human race, which are dubbed the bear cows, which I hate the name of, due to the resemblance of teddy bears in their herbivorous nature, that's not a very good word there, and herding tendencies, which attack with torpedo-like ships in massive waves and numbers, Admiral Geary jumps farther into unknown space. There, they find a third non-human species apparently waiting to engage the bear cows. Turning to engage the bear cows with new aliens alongside them, Geary defeats the force through luck and the bear cow's inability to divert from a charge, after which Admiral Geary jumps farther into unknown space. There, Admiral Geary and his fleet officially meet the first friendly aliens that humanity has met so far, the Spider Wolves. With the help of the Spider Wolves, Admiral Geary and his fleet disable one of the massive Bearcar super battleships, capture it, and then return and try to return it home to Alliance space in Verandal. Realizing that the Enigma race will note their absence from Midway, Geary intercepts another Enigma. I'm having trouble. I'm sorry. Race attack at Midway, which the Syndicate worlds are observing. With assistance from the Spider Wolves, known afterwards as the Dancers, they defeat the Enigma fleet and engage in an easy standoff against the Syndicate world's force, who demand that they surrender their super bear cow ship and the Dancers to them. So I liked that this one for me was a whole lot easier to get into, because we actually like had some action going on, and it was for me much better. I'm excited for Guardian. I don't know how they're gonna do that, because they're escorting the Spider Wolves home through Syndic space, and all the Syndics are like separating and like
yes chaos.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I did like how that captain, that one of the, because they gave them all those commanders that basically just high-ranking officials are like, hopefully they die. I don't know how much you guys talked about that in the last live stream. Basically they were like, oh, all these high-ranking admirals and generals, and we're just going to stick them with you, and hopefully you get destroyed, and
solve all our problems.
Yeah,
fingers crossed, right?
But I like that admiral that was like, I'm going to take over the bear cow ship, and we're going to name it Invincible, because that's like the if you name a ship Invincible, it usually gets destroyed.
Right, and, the curse of Invincible.
So that was pretty cool.
In the beginning of the book, Gary even asked Dejani, I forget the engineer's name. He's like, "Hey, we're struggling for parts. The ships have outlived their shelf life. Like, there's so much good material here, and even though even the good ships are breaking down, losing parts, et cetera, Dejani's like, no, we don't want Invincible's parts. Like, superstition, et cetera. Like, thanks, no thanks. We'd rather deal without it than take that curse." So yeah,
I totally understand that as a sports fan. You know, I personally wasn't in the military. My brother is a Marine, but as a sports fan, like, things cause curses, and they cause, like,
yes,
yeah, you're like,
yes,
no, I don't want anything to do with that. No.
It's amazing. Like, even the most rational of rational people, there are those superstitions that people are just like, nope, not err on the side of caution, not going to touch it. Yeah, for me, this is where this series really starts to get fun. And I don't know if it's just because I'm a sucker for aliens, but like, this is a reread. I forget how many times I've gone through this series at this point, and I know that when you and Joe in the first series started talking tinfoil hat alien stuff, I'm like, let's get to this part. Like, I can't wait to start talking about like all these aliens. And what I really enjoy, you know, as much as you know, there are areas Jack Campbell could have done better in his story writing, I think at this point in the series he's a lot more polished. But what I really appreciate with the aliens is just how, like, they're truly alien, right? They're not like humans in bear cub bodies. They're different culture, different thought process, different like ways they process the world around them. And yeah, it's fun going through this journey because we've struggled to relate to the syndicates, these humans we fought for 100 years, and now we're supposed to be best buddies as the syndicate worlds fall apart, and we have not one, not two, but three different alien species in the mix. And this is what, book 2 of 6 in the second series? 5, I think, is what we have.
Okay.
So yeah, it's really starting
5.
to get good and get moving.
And I think obviously the bear cows, who eventually are renamed to the Kicks. I can't remember exactly what the rationale on that was, where they started calling them Kicks. But the way that they encounter the world, like, any predator has to die. And then their herd mentality, where they have eliminated all vegetation on their planet, all predators, except for what they need to survive. And they live in these giant, massive cities. Like, you imagine, I guess, if cows took over, you know, they would do, you know, because they safety in numbers, and you have, you know, you want that herd mentality. You want to be together with your herd. And then, like, the enigmas, their want of privacy, like how private they are, and how they're very backstabby. You know, it's like, okay, you know, the way that I deal with the world is backstabby. And then the dancers, or the spider wolves, they are very engineering focused, because, you know, they're from a spider culture where webs, you know, that, like, they think in a web formation, and I imagine geometric patterns are a huge part of what they do. but they're very non-combative. Like they'll fight if you make them, but they'll never be the aggressor on a battle. And so just really neat to think about like how, and like I really enjoyed the Spider Wolves. I thought they were super cool. And the way that they were being disrespected by the crew, I kind of was with Gary. I was like, look, these are the first, they may not look visually appealing, but like these are the first aliens that like have come to us. Like we arrived in system and they sent us the ability to talk to them. Like they sent us like software that was like, this is what we normally do when we speak. If you can, figure out how you would interact with this, and maybe we can communicate. And like, that's genius to think. And they just gave it to us. It was like, we'd love to talk to you. We'd love to meet your people. And, so that's kind of cool. Like that. I really like that.
Yeah, like you said, that's one of the things I really enjoy about this series is like the alien species, like their paradigms, their lifestyles, their worlds are just so different. And then like finally, after striking out twice with these other alien species to get the dancers who, like you said, are so technologically like have that mindset to extend that olive branch and be like, hey, here's how you can relate to us. Like, let's try to coexist in some fashion. Yet humans being humans, anything that's different or strange to them, the crew is, like disrespecting, et cetera, et cetera. It seems to be pretty common. Like if we can't instantly process or accept who they are, then it's just like wrong or less than or whatnot. And I talk about it a lot with my brother on our channel, but that's like one of the things I really enjoy about reading. Wish more people like Ramsey and Unity151 and our book buddies were more like that, where they read so much, because it kind of forces people to walk in other people's shoes and shift perspectives to these alien species, and just like how people who are so different can still try to find ways to like coexist, right? Like they may not view the world the same way we do, but that doesn't mean we can't find common ground, right? We just have to shift our perspective a little bit and try a little bit.
I don't know if you've had the opportunity to read the book Sphere by Michael Crichton.
Okay. I have not.
It was fantastic. He went over in that book, the main character is a psychologist, and he was given a theoretical idea by the office of the president, and basically said, 10 years before an event happens, we want you to create a scenario of like, if aliens ever made contact, what we should do. And his big point there was our first reaction meeting something that strange, that different, will be fear. Not just like regular, like, oh man, this is kind of scary, like irrational fear that we will either do something to strike against them, which, you kind of see a lot of times, or an irrational fear that really just makes us think so differently about what we're seeing. And, people, that irrational fear will just really get under people's skin. And I thought, man, that's probably 100% how people would react with irrational fear on meeting an alien race. Because it'd be super scary to think that, we want to meet an alien race. I mean, I think even, I'm a Christian, but I think that it could possibly happen.
Sure.
It wouldn't surprise me one bit if we're not the only world God created, and then those creatures eventually make contact, if they're also humanoids or completely different.
Right.
I think it'd be cool. I would personally like that. But
absolutely. But I think you're spot on. Like on an intellectual level, I think a lot of people are like that. But then the reality of it, something being like truly alien, would would push out that fear and you know, kind of let the animal brain take over, right? Um, yeah, it sounds like I got a new book to add to my TBR. I just checked; it's on Audible. So,
Dude, Sphere's so good. It really
yeah,
is.
yeah,
It
I'm
was
about to
amazing.
spend another credit.
So what did you think about the ship to ship combat this time with and I won't do it now, but I wanted to ask you about the brainwashing of the Rion's husband. But the ship to ship combat, finally we got some good ship to ship combat with the bear cows, the kicks. And
Yeah,
then whenever they realized they were captured, they just died.
yeah, yeah. Um, one of the things I like about the Audible books are Jack Campbell adds some comments in the beginning of it, and he talked a bit about that in the beginning of the book about just like how he has his rules and he does his best to try to keep to them. Um, but he's definitely grown a lot as an author at this point because I just felt like the ship to ship combat was like, yes, you know, as fun as it was dealing with like the time dilation and you know, faster than light and all that stuff. Just this book, I felt like it really took it to the next level, um, as well as just kind of changed it up because we are dealing with alien combat while we're deep in enemy space, you know, ships breaking down around us, so on and so forth. Um, yeah, yeah. There's just so much good about this book. That's why, you know, I wish I could get Pete, who my brother helps me run Geek on my sleeve, to get this far into the series. I tried to get him into it, and he didn't get through the first one. I'm like, come on, like we're just building up. Like once you get to Beyond the Frontier, that's when everything really starts to open up, and we have fun
Well,
with it.
Carlos started with Beyond the Frontier. You know,
Okay.
he's not able to join us today, but I mean, he doesn't seem to have any trouble because Jack Campbell will remind you everything that
Yes.
happened before. So,
Yes. Love it, hate it. It makes it a little bit easier,
like,
right?
and then like, I don't know, I really really enjoyed it. Like, book one, probably 3 stars. This one, like 4.5 probably because
Yeah.
it got so much packed into this book. You know, you meet two different. Well, I guess you met the bear cows in the end of the first book,
It was
but
pretty brief though, right? Like we just got there and had the
yeah.
revelation that it's not just the enigmas.
hmm and I like the idea of, you know, with the bear cows, the herd mentality. They had like the or the bear cow torpedoes, which bear cows are definitely Ewoks. If I mean,
That's how I see them in my head too. Like maybe larger Ewoks. I'm trying to remember, but
but like when he
yeah.
described them as teddy bears, I was like Ewoks for sure. Um,
Star Wars influences everything, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
But like they were in like single person torpedoes, and like
Mhm.
it would have devastated whoever, you know. Luckily they were able to binary choice. um the like it would have devastated their ships, but luckily they were able to stop it. And I think the interplay with his niece, um what Jane Geary, where she was like trying to separate herself from him because he wasn't just a mythological Geary anymore. He was the
Mhm.
Geary that he knew. And her um, action fighting off the bear cows was pretty cool. I like that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
I gotta take my hat off.
all good. Um, yeah, just such a fun book. I'm with you. Like first one in the series, like we needed to wrap up the first series, get everything set up, introduce everything. But Jack Campbell definitely has done a much better job in the second series about interconnecting the subplots across the series. And like you're pointing out earlier, we picked up all the high-level, high-ranking prisoners, and just having that element on board, along with the newer captains, and just it I don't know, like, I definitely feel it in the second book that it's much more interconnected than with the first series, where I think we were talking about like every book kind of had its own new challenge pop up that was then very new. We're here. I'm trying to think. It seems like we just keep stacking the deck more and more and more because we have the syndicates. I'm really enjoying how the story with Midway is kind of developing and getting to see more of life through the syndics there. And I hope we can get the gang to go and do I think it's the Lost Stars series after we get current here, because that's a lot of fun.
I've kind of been spoiled on somebody comes back in the Lost Stars that from the first original series.
Okay.
And I definitely want to read Lost Stars for sure.
Yeah, good.
I thought it was pretty cool that they finally did the syndic relationship where she's gonna stay and be the liaison for Midway. Because I mean, you think you had this many prisoners over that many amount of years. That can't be the only time that a syndic and a alliance world person fell in love.
Sure. I mean, if we look through real life examples, there's plenty of them. Not quite Stockholm syndrome, but I mean, like, people are human, like you spend enough time with them. It was a laugh out loud moment when, Rion's been so distant this series, and then all of a sudden, we go through, I forget the captain's name, but like White Witch is her alliance name.
Yeah, I can't remember what her name is either.
And they pretty much have their breakup. Like, hey, we were living this ruse for the sake of our governments, but now that we're quote unquote free, we have to end it. And you have that heartstring moment, and they move on, and then all of a sudden Rion just comes in like she owns the place and helps Gary find the perfect solution for our lovebirds to be together. Brandamont. Thank you. But yeah, it's been forever since I've read the Lost Stars, but hopefully we then get to see more of that on their side, which I think would be a lot of fun.
Well, and like he kind of threw it in early on in the first series that like when they got to a certain world, they were like, oh yeah, this used to be a huge tourist destination. And it's like the interconnectivity of the human, like there hadn't humans in the Alliance world hadn't been to the Syndic worlds other than prisoners for 100 years. So like what opportunities might arise through that as the Lost Fleet or Lost Stars was going on would be really, really cool to find out.
Yeah.
That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah. That, and if I remember right, Lost Stars, like one of the main characters, Drakon, is like a ground force general. So if I remember right, we get more of our ground to ground combat fix.
I agree. AdmiralStarNight. I'm gonna
like that one. AdmiralStarNight, with the way Campbell writes, you can start him on the second series. Yeah, very, very good point. And you said Carlos just jumped in on the second series, right?
Yeah, he wasn't able to make the first one, but he hopped in the second one.
Yeah. I typically always try to encourage people to read in chronological order, but I think you guys have convinced me. Like with Campbell being, I think that was his first series, kind of newer to it. People can jump in at the second series, and then if they really enjoy it and get invested, go back and read/listen to the first series. But I mean, come on, who doesn't enjoy Aliens? Just jump right into it, right?
It's definitely at this point 2 books in better than the first series. I would probably say high 3.5, 4 stars for the first series, and already this is a 4.5 star series. Yeah. Even though I didn't love the first book, like the second book has brought it up that much for me so far.
And it could just be, a bit of bias, but I always give a little bit of kind of a curve to the first books because they have to set up the plot and the world and, let us know the stuff that we should care about, whether we do or not. And then, like book 2, we're in the heat of it. Like you said, so much more action, so much more aliens, like so much more like what other revelations is he going to bring us to in book 3?
Well, he did so good on the first series, book 2, Fearless. It was probably my favorite of the whole series. That one, and I think either 4 or 5 were like the best. Those were like 5-star books. And then, a couple of other ones were easy 3-star books. And so it's like, when you average it all out.
Good point.
I like averages.
Yeah.
So what do you think about the brainwashing that they did to Rion's husband?
Refresh my memory in those who haven't read it in a bit, because
so it's kind of like a side plot, but initially what's his name? I can't remember his name right now. It's like Raul or something. But the husband comes back and realizes that he's all happy. He meets his wife, but she can tell that he's different. And then he realizes that Geary and Rion had a physical relationship. So he goes and he's about to challenge Geary to a duel. And because of the honor in the fleet, if you challenge somebody to a duel, because it got so bad at one point that all the captains were dueling one another, that if you challenge another person to a duel, you're immediately executed. So Deshani noticed what he was doing and was like, do not do this. This is going to get you killed. Stop. And then after some time, Geary like really reached out to him and was like, something's wrong with you. I want to help. And he's like, as commander of the fleet, I need you to tell me what's going on. He's like, you're asking me as commander of the fleet? He's like, yes. He's like, all right, now I can tell you, because he'd been brainwashed to only be able to tell, like he couldn't tell his wife, he couldn't tell the people around him. Only when the admiral of the fleet, not knowing that it was going to be Geary, like that's what they brainwashed him with. When the admiral of the fleet said, you need to tell me what's going on, he could finally tell him what had happened. And they had been messing with chemical warfare. And the Alliance said that they were above and wouldn't do that kind of thing, but had actually been working on it. And he knew, and that's why they had tried to get rid of him, and basically get rid of him, knowing that they had done such an awful thing. Basically, they were going to do like a gene-spliced chemical warfare to destroy the Syndics, like whole worlds with like bio weapons. So that was kind of nuts.
Yeah. Again, it just kind of reminds us when war gets dragged out for so long, where that line in the sand keeps getting pushed back further and further and further. And I think I remember in an interview, Jack Campbell kind of talking about that, where like Geary is the hero of myth who comes back after 100 years. And we saw it all through the first book, like the atrocities they committed, and him being of their quote unquote ancestors to remind them of what used to be valuable, or their values used to be. And
I could imagine after 100 years, the line is very blurry.
I agree. And at one point it's like, we can understand it, but it also reminds us, like with our humanity, you know, like at what cost, right? To win at what cost? Do the ends justify the means? And you know, a lot of times war is an arms race, and even now in current day and age, you know, there are certain things that are just completely taboo when it comes to war. Yet, you know, what happens behind the scenes, like that is constantly challenged, and it's scary, right? Life is precious. And that's one of the things that I enjoy about sci-fi fantasy in this series is, like, you know, here we're supposed to be the humans, here we're supposed to be the ones, you know, with high morals, high standards, yet look at what we do to our own species. And kind of tying back into, you know, we're talking a bit about like aliens and just the probabilities and believing that they're probably out there, yet, you know, if they were watching what we do to our own kind, they're probably pretty cautious about coming out and extending that olive branch, right?
Oh yeah. I
Yeah.
wonder too if, you know, a lot of sci-fi books talk about the eventuality that we will always be at war.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of see it in a lot of different sci-fi books. They talk about it, like Hyperion. We just read, you know, Hyperion, Fall of Hyperion.
Yes.
The ousters, who were different, and the conglomerate. What are they called? The hegemony of man.
Yes. You're on it with names, dude.
I do well with memory, I think. And
Yeah.
then the try to think. There was another big. I just watched a review of Leviathan Wakes, and that was Earth
On
and
TBR.
Mars and the asteroid belt. Like, and the difference. They're like, oh well, we're different. So Earth feels similar, but then they're like, Mars is different, and we can attack Mars because Mars is more technologically advanced. And then the asteroid belt, they're kind of just, you know, the dregs of society. And so, you know, it's interesting to see like that dynamic of humans are very tribal. From what we're watching Bones, and she talks about humans being tribal all the time.
Yeah.
And we, you know, we try to find our like. You know, Americans are all like, oh yeah, Americans best, you know, and you know, other kind of like, and sometimes it goes, it doesn't care about the race line. Sometimes it cares about the race line. Sometimes it cares about a language barrier. Sometimes it like, and it's interesting to see like what the difference is. You know, like you look in South Africa, and the was it like the native Dutch speakers don't like the other people, and then like people who are farmers are not getting along with people who are not like, it's just how we can find any little thing to make
different
you know,
than us, right? Anything that is perceived as different than us, not part of our tribe, then it's easy to divide the camps into us versus them. We got to protect us against them, whatever silly minute detail that might be. And you know, the parallels between sci-fi and reality are unreal sometimes, because you're talking about, and I know you're much more a history buff than I am, but even just looking here at the States, United States, where we're both based out of, we've been quote unquote officially at war, what, like more than 90% of our existence or something like that. Like there's always another war, there's always another them, there's always somebody be different. And then just even just even here locally, with some of the unrest. And you know, maybe the optimist, but like, yeah, like I think there's a lot more of quote unquote us if we weren't so busy trying to divide the camps up, and bringing it back to it. Like that's what's kind of fun about this series, because we get to see the alliance slowly kind of build up with the syndicates about, hey, you know, we are one species, we are one people. Like it's very much us, and we get to see that the difference kind of get bridged there with Midway as they try to break off and be more independent. And I think it's towards the end, like Drakon, the grounds general, that ends up kind of partnering up, which is very quote unquote alien, pun intended, for the syndicates with who was the female CEO of Midway?
The one that he kind of made a halfway deal with.
Yeah, an unofficial truce with or deal with. But those,
I look that up. I don't remember.
It's all good. The two CEOs, they're kind of forming an alliance, but Drakon reaches out and he's like, hey, like, I'm glad we never had to fight each other. Like we're stronger together. And then we went from the syndicate just being the boogeyman to we're now kind of have like an alliance between them and the dancers against like the Enigmas and the Cowbear people. So yeah.
The AdmiralStarNight said, remember the little bit about the Europa rule, and I don't remember that.
I was about to say
mine, not hers. Okay, there. I'm trying to remember what the Europa rule was.
I'm looking it up. Google says Europa rule of law guarantees fundamental rights and values, allows the application of UE law, and supports the no, I got the wrong one.
I think it was to deal with the books that we're reading. I think there's something going on. Maybe.
Yeah. Can you elaborate, AdmiralStarNight?
Well, I say we kind of aim for about 40-45 minutes. So okay. Do you have anything that you're excited about for the next books?
Like I said, I had to really bite my lip a lot when you guys started speculating in the first book about the aliens. And I can't wait to get Joe and Carlos and AdmiralStarNight in here for book 3 to really dive deeper and talk about the aliens and learning more about them. Because like for me, that's like something that's just so fun about this series. And I'm glad we're finally there. And careful for spoilers. Thank you, AdmiralStarNight. There is more fun stuff because of course we're only in book 2. So there's going to be more subplots that come to play. I forgot to bring up the Spider Wolves were most impressed about our universal fixing device, which is duct tape. Oh, yes.
They were like, we will continue in this alliance if you provide us the universal fixing device.
They're truly engineers then, right? Because like what's that flow chart like? Is it moving? Like, is it supposed to move or is it not supposed to move? Like if it's supposed to move, WD-40. If it's not supposed to move, duct tape. Like everything could be solved by those two tools. And yeah,
it was pretty cool because
I got a chuckle out of that too.
They were fighting, and the soldiers. Oh yes, the biowarfare. Okay.
You gonna pull that in? AdmiralStarNight expanded on the Europa rule for
idea.
Us.
That is the back when Geary was around, that happened. And so he remembered that Europa was the reason that they were not supposed to do biowarfare anymore. And they kept messing with it. And so by messing with it again, they were basically breaking an alliance, like a big time alliance rule. And they were not supposed to do that at all. And so everybody in school learns about that, about how dangerous that biowarfare stuff was. I do remember that. That is a great point.
Thanks, AdmiralStarNight. We miss you.
Excuse me. That was a weird cough. But yeah, I'm excited to see them travel through Syndic space in this next book. I assume that's what they're going to do. They're going to travel and escort the Spider Wolves back with the Bear Cow ship and the Spider Wolves, and probably fighting some Syndics or former Syndics on the way home. And then dropping the Spider Wolves off, and then maybe heading back out again to face the Enigmas, or the Enigmas chasing them for a while. I'm not sure exactly how that'll go, but
yeah, there's stealth technology. That's you purge periodically for the worms, but they could always be looming in the darkness, right?
Or create a newer, better worm.
This is true. Yeah, such a fun series. I'm really enjoying geeking out with you guys about it, talking about it. We've definitely made some new friends in this read along, which has been amazing. Super pumped to get deeper into this series and just have fun with all these fun subplots.
He kind of took a poke at his publisher too, where he's like, Johnny's uncle is a publisher, and he's like, I can sell the rights to your story because I'm your wife or whatever. And he's like, well, I should have bookmarked it, but he's like, yeah, they'll probably put like a picture of like a Marine on there, but we only fight battles in space. And it's
pretty funny. Is breaking the fourth wall there.
Yeah, he like, because the whole first series we're all talking about it. It was all pictures of Marines when it's space battles pretty much.
Yep.
So that was a lot of fun. I thought that was cool that he threw that in there for us.
Yes. Thank you, AdmiralStarNight. The CEO of Midway is Iceni. And hopefully I got that right. Iceni and Drakon, which is just an awesome name, Drakon.
I think it's cool. Their catchphrase is for the people.
Yes.
Not for the Syndics anymore, but for the people.
Yeah, and they talked about it being like an older phrase. So like Geary uses for the honor of our ancestors, and then Drakon uses for the people. And I had a conversation with a colleague about just it's interesting companies, kind of like what their mission statement is, or like what their catchphrase is. And I think one of the jokes we made was like, it's almost ironic where like, what they say versus what they do. Right. And I think we get to see the syndicates as well as Geary to try to really embrace those phrases and the values and let that guide them.
Yeah, I actually had a thought about that the other day, because our company just got bought by another I'm all over the place. Our company just got bought by another company, and they've changed our kind of motto, and it's be safe, work hard, be brave. And I was like, that's interesting. That like, as elevator mechanics, like, in what situation do they like want us to be brave? Like I'd love to hear like the thought process that went into that, because it's they've only owned us for like 6 months, so like what they really want to do, because they're basically creating a new company, and like where they want to go with that be brave,
right?
I thought it was kind of,
and also just the order of it, right? As if like you would assume beginning was priorities, and it was like be safe. What was the next part?
Work hard,
and then be brave. So yeah, it's interesting, and I think the the words people use say a lot about them, right?
Mhm.
But yeah, I know we're approaching that 45-minute marker you were talking about. Final thoughts. Super pumped about the series. Loving geeking out with you guys about it. Hopefully we can coordinate with times to get a couple more of our friends back on here this week or next time. Do we know rotation wise? Is it going to be Unity?
I think it's you after me. I think it's
Okay.
you, Unity, me. But I can ask Joe. He
Okay.
he knows. He usually keeps up with that pretty good.
Keep up with social media. Our friends will make sure to plug it on there. If you haven't already, join this guy's Discord where we're geeking out about it 24/7, 365. Jump in to the second series. You don't have to do the first one. Just you got
It's a lot of
2
fun.
books to catch up. Yeah, and we do typically once a month, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So July we'll get this guy in.
Mhm. Yep. We'll have Guardian is the next one. So
Yes.
knock that one out.
Yes.
And they're pretty short. 300 pages or so. So
Oh yeah. You listen at 2-3x speed like Pete and I do. You can bust out in an afternoon. So
I don't know how you can do 2 times speed. Like I do 2, and I'm fine. I've gone up to 2.5 on like a really slow narrator. But
hey, I think a couple books ago you were talking about only be able to do 1 1/4. You'll be at 3x
Joe.
before you know it.
Joe can't do more than 1 1/4. He's like, you guys are crazy.
We have people on our channel complain about how slow Peter and I talk. They're just like, we had to play you at 1.5x speed. It's like, we get it. We get it.
when you have like a bunch of YouTube videos, like I feel bad that I do it. It's like you have like a 20-minute video and you're like, you want to listen to what the person's saying. You're like, I unfortunately have to speed you up a little bit.
It's hard. We've and it's a good problem to have, right? We've made so many book friends here. Like I think in your Discord, like you're pushing a couple hundred people in there hanging out, geeking out, and like you want to hear what they have to say. Like we don't got time for 1x. Gotta speed that boy up. But anyhow, this is your channel, good sir. So
well, everybody, enjoy your Saturday. We're gonna log off, and thank you so much for chatting with us. And we will be back with the full crew next time. Sorry about the abrupt, impromptu kind of way that we did this one. I feel bad. It's all my fault.
No. All friends, all fun, all the time. Thank you so much for hanging out with us.